Hello world, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Little Bit Different podcast with your host, Corey Sterling. What's going on? I'm super excited to share this week's episode with you. Just a very friendly reminder to like and subscribe to the channel. You can share it with anyone who you think would enjoy it. And I'm just having such a blast putting all of these episodes together and trying to learn from the things that are happening in my life and to share them with this beautiful community. So I do get some awesome emails from listeners, which are really, really cool and light me up, because sometimes I think, oh, this is just me sitting in front of a computer talking for 30 minutes in Brazil and no one's listening. But then sometimes I get some really cool heartfelt messages from people who are listening and who enjoy the content, so that inspires me to continue moving forward. This week's episode, I want to talk about some of the lessons that I've learned from being in a relationship. It's true. For the better part of 15 years, I was single, and I really wasn't that interested in being in a relationship. I recorded a whole podcast about the benefits and the joys of being single, and I still do love, but sometimes it happens in the most wonderful way that you meet a really special person and you're like, okay, cool, maybe I'll give this whole couple thing a try and see what it's like to be in a relationship and to build something with someone special. So having done that, I'm definitely making the transition from single to being in a relationship, and I wanted to share some of the lessons that I've learned. So I'm not going to talk specifically about my girlfriend or how awesome she is or how much I enjoy being with her, which I do to all of those things. I do for all of those things. But instead, what I want to talk about are the different things that I've learned, and also what I've learned from the support I've received from my friends and my family from being in a relationship. So this might be really funny to someone who's listening, who's been in a relationship for a long time, but you could just imagine having a certain mentality and a certain lifestyle and a certain way of doing things for 15 years, which is like most of my adult life, the majority of my adult life, and then sort of like changing paths and going a different way. And I'm a deliberate creator, so I'm able to create whatever it is that I want, and I have a lot of self-confidence that I can show up and be an awesome partner. But I will say that what has probably made the process so seamless has been the support from my friends and family, and that it means a lot to me. And also, I'm definitely in an area now where I don't have the experience to have learned these lessons. And so I've just been turning to friends and family probably more than I usually do in terms of support, just because I feel to some degree out of my depth and open to learning. So that's the focus of this episode. The intention is to share some of the best lessons and learnings that I've had from being in a relationship and what it's like being in a monogamous, committed relationship. I hope that it helps. I hope this episode can be beneficial to anyone who's already in a relationship. Maybe it's a friendly reminder. Maybe you have a friend who's just started seeing someone. Maybe you've just broken up and you're ripe for opportunity to reflect. Obviously, none of this is written in stone. These are just my perceptions based on what I've seen. The first thing that I'll say about being in a relationship, and this is just like a personal reflection, is that it's like any new behavior where there is a learning process, and patience is required for a learning process. And I'm also just looking at it as building a new muscle, right? So there was a time in my life where I didn't go to the gym, and then I started going to the gym, and I would do a bicep curl, and I would have an 8-pound weight. And that's what I was good with, and that was my limit of what I could do. And I didn't judge myself, and I wasn't hard against myself for doing that. I was acknowledging myself and being proud of myself for giving it a try. I'm like, cool, man, awesome job for showing up. So definitely in terms of being in a relationship right now, I just feel everyone like feels so sorry for my partner, for my girlfriend. You don't have to, but yeah. But I'm in the process of showing up, and what I'm learning and what I've learned is that this is just like building a new muscle. It's just like starting a new habit, and because there's so many other things in my life that I've been able to start from scratch and build out and become fairly competent at, this is what I'm doing now in relationships. The first lesson that I've learned, and this came from a buddy of mine, my roommate at McGill University. His name is Ryguy, also known as GLAT. He gave me a piece of advice that was very, very helpful and has been really, really helpful for me during the process of being in a relationship. And I do want to create a distinction when I say being in a relationship. I'm not really talking about the first 3 months, right? The first 3 months, it's sort of, it really is autopilot. It takes care of itself. It's effortless. There's such a rush and you can't believe it's happening. And it's like, you get a text message of the person's dog and you're like, oh my God, that is the most incredible dog I've ever seen. I can't believe a dog like that exists. And that's sort of just how you look at everything. And it's awesome. And it's like, I don't think there's a phase that's more fun than that. But also, I'm pretty good. I don't need to go to the gym for that phase. I'm pretty good at that phase of just finding someone and being completely enamored. But what I'm talking about is working through when things get difficult. And the piece of advice that my friend Ryan gave me was, it doesn't always have to be perfect. It doesn't always have to be perfect. And there was such a sense of relief when I heard him say those words. I was going through some things that were definitely more about me than they were about my girlfriend. But when he said that, I just immediately felt a sense of relief around it. And I think what it does is it gives us permission for things not to be perfect, and to understand that if we're fighting, or we're going through communication, or we're learning each other's communication styles, or we're learning how the other person responds in conflict, or whatever any of those things are. I think if you can have the mindset that those are opportunities to learn, instead of like, oh my God, this is a crisis, something's really, really going wrong, and if we can't fix this, how will we be able to fix more serious things? Or when you give yourself that leeway and that permission for things where things don't always have to be perfect, it makes a lot of sense, and it takes a lot of pressure off of the things, right? And I think one thing that I've noticed about relationship as well is that there is a sense of insecurity on both sides, right? When you're in the dating phase and you're preparing to make decisions to start building a life together, or to be in alignment to build a life together, there always is that feeling like, oh, what if someone bails? Or what if someone sees this side of me and then decides to bail or doesn't want to be part of it? It's just a general insecurity that takes place, where in certain moments probably you wouldn't act a certain way, but maybe you react because of some form of insecurity that you have, or something that you're not sure about. And I think when you set the frame of not needing things to always be perfect, that it allows the relationship to breathe. It allows you to breathe. It allows everything to be okay, even though things might not be okay. And it really gives a time and space to work through things. So this was a particular piece of advice, that things don't always need to be perfect, that was really, really helpful for me, and helped show me that I can be in a relationship, I can be having challenges with my partner or in communication with my partner, and that's okay. And if we're a team and we're going to do it and we're going to work through it together, then that's exactly what we're going to do, and we'll find a way out the other side. And it's such a stark difference from needing things to always be perfect. Because then if something goes wrong, you're like, oh my God, something's wrong. Is the bottom going to fall out? Was all of this a big, terrible mistake? Are we ill-suited to be together? No, that's not what's going on. Things don't always need to be perfect. Right now, they're not perfect, and that's okay. And we can take it from there. So that particular piece of advice was really, really helpful to me. The next piece of advice, and this is something that I really learned through being an entrepreneur and through my business, and I've been able to apply it to relationships, and just like relationships in general and friendships in general, and now a romantic relationship with a partner. But I've learned in the same way that things don't always need to be perfect, and I learned this lesson before that. But I learned that like it's okay to feel in and out about things. And what that means is like it's okay where you have periods where like you're really into it and it's the primary focus and you're doing everything that you can in for the relationship and you love it and it's, you know, it's so big. And then there's also times where like you're just not going to feel super motivated for it. And in that time, like it's okay to step away and not take any harmful action, right? So step away doesn't mean like, okay, you know what, right now I'm not really feeling this, so I'm gonna go behave like a single person behave. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is realizing that there are times where sometimes you just need to close your phone, you need to make popcorn, you need to watch your favorite movie, you need to go for a walk in the park, you need to look at the sunset, and you don't always need to be totally in on that. And I just want to share where and how I learned this message. It really came from my life as an entrepreneur with Conscious Counsel. So I'm coming up on 8 years with Conscious Counsel. As a business owner, your relationship with your business, it's like having a child, it's like having a partner. It's something that's always there. It's something that you have to pay attention to. It's something that you have to care for. It's something that you love deeply. It's something that you respect. It's something that you want it to be the best possible, so you can share it with as many people as possible. Hello, world. This is Corey from A Little Bit Different Podcast. I'm going to tell you a statistic now. You're not going to believe it. Only 22% of people who listen to the Little Bit Different Podcast actually subscribe or like the channel. So right now, I'm on a mission to get 250 subscribers to the channel by the end of the year. Will you help me? I'm hoping that the answer is yes. So please, anytime you watch any of our content, hit subscribe, that whole button there, and like it and share it and keep being different and having the most fun ever. And what I've also noticed has happened with me as a business owner, and I'm not the poster boy for being an entrepreneur. I'm sure there's a lot of coaches out there and a lot of people who can tell you how great they are and how their business is their life. Like, Conscious Counsel is not my life. It's definitely a big part of my life. It gives me the freedom to do what I want. It gives me the freedom to be of service. It gives me the freedom to have an amazing team and work with them. But also there are times, surprise, surprise, where I just don't give a shit. I just don't. And I think that that's very, very healthy. This is, talking about doing things a little bit different. This is my approach to being in relationship and being a business owner. And what I've learned is that over the 8 years of running this business, if there were times where I was like not motivated, didn't care, couldn't be bothered, frustrated, upset, if I tried to fix the problems then, or tried to force myself to go back into the work to fix the problems then, it never helped and it never worked out. And that anytime I was able to perceive something happening where I'm like, okay, I'm really not motivated by the business right now, or I can't be bothered, or I don't feel motivated, or whatever it is, just let it go. And like, hey, you know what? Cancel all of my calls for the next 2 days, please. And on Monday, I'm going to come back and I'm going to take 4 days off. And I'm just going to have my time and space to come naturally back to the business. And every time I've done that, it works. And what I've noticed is like my relationship with my business, it's like anything else. It just goes up and down. And sometimes I'm really motivated and sometimes I'm not motivated at all. But I think the key to the longevity in this respect is having moments where I allow myself to check out. Like, I can check out for a bit. I'm not in the same way in a relationship. If I'm in a relationship and I'm not feeling great, I'm not showing up as the best version of myself, I'll allow myself to check out and be like, hey, you know what? Right now is not a great time for me to resolve or deal with this. I need 2 or 3 days to myself. I'm here. I care about you. I'm committed to our relationship. Just right now, I'm not in the space where I can be an awesome partner. And so I'm just going to remove myself, take myself off of the court. And when I do that as a business owner as well, I always bounce back better. I always bounce back better when I'm able to do that. And so I've just like been applying this logic to relationships. And in the same way that sometimes, if I'm being completely honest, there are times where I'm like, I don't want to run conscious counsel anymore. I don't. I've done this for a long time. I have a variety of skills. I'm super creative. There's so many different things that I can do. Is this really what I meant to do with my life? And I'll go through a 3 or 4 day period where I'm like, I want to sell it. I'm done. I'm not interested. I don't want to do this anymore. And then I let myself have that space, and I distract myself by going kite surfing, taking a trip, going to a different town, whatever it is, doing something to break up the routine. And then I come back and I'm like, oh, this is actually an amazing business that I love, and how cool is it that I have my own community, and how great is it that I'm able to support people. And I think that being okay of being in and out is very, very, very healthy. I think that if the expectation is going to be that like I'm always 100% in all of the time with something, I think if I were to set that expectation for myself, I would be setting myself up to fail. And again, just the caveat here on this point is that I'm not saying that it's okay to check out and, not communicate that you're checking out, or partake in disrespectful or behaviors that are out of alignment with the values of the relationship. I'm not saying anything like that. I'm just saying that like it's okay to not feel fully awesome about it, and to give your time space to come back to feeling awesome about it. Because I think it's just, if that expectation is that things are always going to be amazing and I'm super excited and I'm always here, if we're talking about running a marathon, that's completely unreasonable. So that's something that for me has been, I learned from my business, and I've been able to apply it to my relationship. And also I've learned to communicate it in my relationship. Like I said, it's like with my team. If I need some days off, I'll just send a message to the team. Hey guys, I'm sorry. I'm really not feeling great. So I'm not going to be online for the next 2 days. If there's anything you need help with now, let me know. I'll be around the next 2 hours. Let's figure it out. Otherwise, thank you for the amazing work, and I really appreciate you. That's the sort of relationship that I want to have, and that's something that's really important as well. The next piece of advice, which I think this is probably, from everything I've shared, this is probably the most standard or most common, but I'm really learning the value of it as I'm in this relationship and navigating this relationship. It's the importance of picking your battles. And picking your battles means deciding that, out of 10 issues, 9 of them you sort of just have to be okay with. Even if it's like you're not in love with it, you're a little bit frustrated, your partner's in communication about something that they need, you're not super jazzed about it, but like, cool, I'm happy to go along with it and support you and be here for it. Or if there's like, things like where we're going to eat dinner, or smaller things on a day-to-day basis. Who's picking who up? What does that look like? All of those sorts of things. And just like really, really like 9 out of 10 of the things, just finding a way to like let it go. Let it go, let it go, let it go. And picking your battles means like if you're gonna stand up for something in the relationship that you think is really important, it should be something that's really, really important to you, and something that's part of one of your core values, and something that you feel that you have to stand up for. And I share this because it's one of those adages that you always hear, like pick your battles, pick your battles. And until you're really in the relationship, you can't have so much clarity about what that means. But it's just very, very valuable. And then like sometimes what'll happen is that something will come up and your initial reaction is like, oh no, I don't want to do that, or that's not part of my plans, or that, or whatever it is, something like that. And then there's a moment where like you just stop and you're like, okay, is this the thing that I really want to stand up for and say like, hey, this is really, if we're eating Greek food or Thai food, or if we're doing this or if we're doing that, or, if I'm going to wait around while you get your nails done. These are all just examples. Most of the things on a day-to-day basis are a negotiation. I learned that from Jordan Peterson. And I think it's actually, I can combine these two points into one. But what Jordan Peterson, when he talks about relationships, he says like, you shouldn't be looking for, a girlfriend or a wife. You should be looking for someone who you negotiate very well with. And I think it's such an important skill set to observe and see how you and someone else are able to navigate different things, because, and I've learned this too, a relationship is about two different people, and that two people have two communication styles, and they want different things, and they do things differently, and they react to things differently. And ideally what you're looking for when you're looking for a great partner is someone who you can negotiate well with. And someone who is open to negotiation, understands that things are a negotiation. They will have their firm stops. They'll have things that for them are non-negotiables. I myself have some things for me that are non-negotiables. And let the games begin. Let's see how we're able to navigate that together. And so I think that this idea of picking your battles is also sort of like a negotiation tactic. And if I think about negotiations that I've done on behalf of my clients, usually you'll know there are one or two things that are really, really important to the client in the outcome of the deal. And when there's smaller things, you're like, okay, are you cool with this? Yeah, no one really cares. No one really cares about that one. No, that's like small fish. But at the end of the day, we want to make sure that the main deal points of what it is that we're trying to get are secured, and that we feel great with it. And so in this whole theme of looking at relationships as a negotiation, what's been helpful for me is just realizing like I don't have to win, or I don't need to have every single aspect of the negotiation fall in my favor, because the truth is, if you're talking about building a long-term relationship and being in a long-term relationship together, there are going to be many negotiations. And the ability for you as a team, you and your partner, to quickly navigate those negotiations and pass through them easily, so that even if there was a point that's contentious, how quickly can we get over that contentious point? And how quickly can we return to the loving, fun, light aspect of the relationship is really, really important. So I think that this point of picking your battles is something that's been really, really evident to me in the early stages of building this relationship with my partner. And then also just the general framing of looking at the relationship as a negotiation. All of the things are negotiation. Do I have an awesome negotiation partner? Do I have someone who makes it easy to negotiate with them? Someone who's easy, someone who's light, someone who has their things that they stand for. And my job is to understand what those non-negotiables are for them, but also for me to have clarity about what my non-negotiables are and the things that, you know what, if I can't be in a relationship where I can do X, then it doesn't make sense, and it won't make sense in the future. And sometimes it's scary to have those realizations, but it's also really important because you want to be respecting your time and you want to respect the other person's time. And as you go further and further into the relationship, you realize that you're creating it like from Play-Doh or from Silly Putty, like you're creating the relationship together as you go along. And the moment that you realize something for you is really, really important, you have an obligation to communicate it in a respectful way and see what works for the other person. And if something that's really, really important doesn't work for the other person and will never work for them, then you're at the decision of, you think, okay, well, can I move forward with this relationship knowing that, and I'll have to accept that? Or is this something that's so important to me of being in a relationship that, you know what, we're not great negotiating partners, and it probably will be better for both of us to be on our own or to find someone else, which is, it's an uncomfortable truth, and it's not something that you want to look at, but I think it's an extremely effective and important thing to have the courage to get clarity on what your non-negotiables are and see if your partner will accept them, and in the same way, be able to be open to accepting your partner's non-negotiables as well. The last point that I want to speak about here and share the piece of advice that I got. I don't remember who it was that gave me this piece of advice, but it's something that is really, really helpful. Now that I remember, it was something in an Esther Perel podcast, which was really, really helpful. Something that one of my friends sent me and that I was listening to. And it's really the importance of not losing yourself in a relationship, which I think is also a little bit trite to say, but it's incredible how easy it is to lose yourself in a relationship. I'm a super independent person. I travel the world alone. I've lived alone for a really long time. There's something that happens when you get in a relationship where it's like sort of lose your own life and everything becomes about the relationship and being with that person. And I think making a conscious effort to keep your own life and keep in touch with your friends and continue to do the things like travel alone or take trips with friends or be social or do the things that you always did is really, really important. And I think that's one of the best things that you can do for the relationship. And I thankfully didn't get to the point of losing myself in a relationship, but I could see how it could have happened. And then I was really cognizant and aware of it to course correct my behavior to make sure that I was like, cool, like I still need to be Corey, even though I now have an amazing girlfriend. But more important than that, I think even is like keeping a support network or having a support network of friends that you can turn to when you're in a relationship. And I can't say I'm so lucky that I have so many friends who, if there's a different problem that I'm going through in my relationship, that I can turn to and either call at any moment or send a WhatsApp message to and say, hey, I need your help. This is what I'm going through. What sort of support or advice or help do you have? And this is something that, firstly, what it helps me do, the reason why having a support network and a variety of friends, and it doesn't have to, there's no magic number. It's not like, oh, you need 3 friends for this or you need 2 friends. It's not about that. It's about having people who know you well and who are in healthy relationships and who've been in healthy relationships, who you can turn to in moments when you're unsure. And again, I think this comes back to what I shared at the start of building a new muscle and like going to the gym to build my relationship muscle and my muscle of being an amazing partner. There's a lot of things that I don't know. And it's sort of just like, it's like business coaching too. Like if you want to take your business to the next level, the logical thing to do is work with someone who's already been there. And that's what I find myself doing if I'm unsure about a situation in a relationship, if I'm feeling a certain way. And it's so helpful when you have amazing people who love you, who you can just send them a message and just be like, hey, this is how I'm feeling. Is it normal? Like, is this a normal feeling that I have? And, you know, it's not like looking for validation. And I think all of my friends who I share with in this way, they know that I'm not looking to hear, oh, Corey, you're so great. And Corey, you're totally right. And yes, you know, but it's the perspective of different people. And especially for me, my friends are all over the world, like Israeli friends, Mexican friends, Brazilian friends, Canadian friends. Just off the top of my head, Belgian friends. Just whenever I'm going through something, I know that there's so many people that I can turn to and get honest feedback from about a situation. And this is really, really important. And I was in a relationship in the past where I had this and my partner didn't have that. And it doesn't have to be international, it doesn't have to be a whole bunch, but I think when you can cross-check your ideas or how you're feeling in a situation with someone who has been in a healthy, committed, long-term relationship, it's just like, it's gold. And it's so helpful because, you know, when you're new to this, you're navigating things, you're not sure, you have doubts, you have uncertainties, and then you just get the feedback from someone who loves you, cares about you, but also is not afraid to call you out on your shit or on your bullshit. And I've just found this to be such an immensely resourceful tool. And I am this person to some of my other friends as well. I think, you know, not always around relationships, although I have been and I can be, but I think just in general. And the richer our support network and the richer people we have in our lives who are quality people who we trust, who are looking out for us and who are there for us when we need us, it just makes everything so different. And I couldn't possibly imagine being in a relationship and not having access to that network of my friends and the people who I love. And yeah, I've just like, it feels like my life raft. It feels like the buoy in the water that, you know, if I'm drowning, that there's someone or a series of people who I can rely on to help me and who I can change ideas with and who can share with me, who aren't my partner, right? And I think that's the point that Esther Perel was talking about, is like the importance of having that network outside of your partner. And if I'm going through business challenges as well, it's like my partner is here and she's awesome and there's so many things that we share, but I don't share like not every business problem I don't go to my partner. I'm like, hey, this is a business problem that I have. Or if I'm having another question or another issue, I don't always just have to go to her. So the benefits are twofold in that sense. One, that if I'm having a problem with a relationship or I'm not sure, I know that there's people who know me, who love me, who want the best for me, who I can reach out to. But also when other things are going on in my life, it's like, no, I'm not dumping everything in my life on my partner. And there are certain things that she definitely supports me with, but also I'm very mindful to change it up and look for support from different people in different contexts. And it's just really, really important, because we are the sum of our network. We are the sum of the 5 people that we spend our most time with. So I wanted to sort of close by saying that. I don't know how to package that advice into a beautiful way, but the importance of having a network and support of people who love you and who care for you is really, really big. And it's the key to, so much of my, whatever success I have in my life, I would attribute most of it to the people around me and the support that they give me. And let's say you're listening to this and you don't really have anyone who helps you in that way. I'm sure you've got a lot of friends. Maybe you haven't reached out to them. Shoot them a message on WhatsApp or text them or do whatever it is that you do and just be like, hey, is there anything I can support you with? And just start from there, because we all need to support each other. We all need to work with each other. That was a fantastic episode. I hope that you enjoyed it. This is me stepping out of my comfort zone, obviously talking about being in a relationship. It's not a topic that I always knew that I would talk about or that I would feel confident to speak about, but I think that there are some awesome lessons that I've learned. So, in summary, this is about building a new muscle and gradually, slowly improving and being light with myself about that. Relationships don't always have to be perfect. You're allowed to feel in and out about it. The importance of picking your battles and looking at relationships as a negotiation, and then ultimately not losing yourself in a relationship, and also making sure that you have an amazing support network. Whatever it is that you do, stay different. I love you. I hope you enjoyed this episode.